this video, we will explain Horimiya. This anime tells the story of Hori and Miyamura's love story at school, as well as the story of their friends. Hori has a different personality when she's at home, so does Miyamura. How is their love story when they both know each other's true personalities? Let's find out in Horimiya. Horimiya tells about the twists and turns of the love life of a high school girl named Hori Kyoko with her classmate named Miyamura. Hori is a beautiful and smart high school girl in her school. She is also a member of the student council organization at her school. That's why Hori is quite popular among the high school students at her school and many boys like her. While Miyamura is a student who is relatively quiet and introverted. Miyamura is usually neat and unobtrusive. He can wear glasses and long hair that covers his ears. Hori and Miyamura happen to be in the same class, but at school, the two of them weren't that close to each other. Even though Hori always looks attractive and beautiful at school, when Hori is at her house, she has a different side. Hori looks very simple and has a low profile. She tied her hair back and wore a plain t-shirt. One day, Hori's younger brother, Shota, came home with a nosebleed. It turned out that Shota had fallen because he was being chased until his nose was bleeding. At that time, Shota was escorted by an eccentric-looking young man with short hair and a ponytail. At first, Hori still didn't realize that the young man was Miyamura because his appearance was so much different. But then, she realized it after Miyamura recognized her first. Since then, the two have become closer. Moreover, Hori's younger brother, Shota, really wants to play with Miyamura. So Hori often invites Miyamura to come to her house every time he comes home from school. Their closeness has even reached the point where they are no longer awkward to ask each other for help. For example, when Hori wants to buy eggs because there is a discount. But at that time, Hori couldn't go because she had a student council meeting she had to attend. She then asked Miyamura to buy the egg. When Miyamura runs to buy eggs with his eccentric appearance, he is accidentally spotted by Hori's friend, Yoshikawa Yuki. That night when Miyamura told Hori this, Hori strangely said that she didn't like other people seeing Miyamura's eccentric appearance. On the other hand, Miyamura also didn't want others to see Hori's modest side. They both wanted this other side of them to be known only to them. At their high school, there is a boy named Ishikawa Toru, who has a secret crush on Hori. That was why Ishikawa didn't like the closeness between Hori and Miyamura. Ishikawa had time to ask the reason Miyamura always wears long shirts when exercising. It turns out that Miyamura always wears a winter uniform throughout school because he doesn't want the school to know about the tattoos on his body. Ishikawa was surprised to know that, but he had promised not to reveal the secret to anyone. On the school roof, Ishikawa asked Miyamura about his recent closeness with Hori. Miyamura explains that he has been close to Hori for a long time and that his relationship with Hori is only that of friends. Miyamura didn't mind when Ishikawa said that he wanted to ask Hori as his girlfriend. Because after all, Miyamura felt that it depended on Hori's decision, not him. In the following days, Miyamura seemed to avoid Hori and began to keep his distance from Hori. Because in the near future, Ishikawa would confess his feelings to Hori. That day, Ishikawa took Hori to meet him after school. He then confessed his feelings to Hori. Meanwhile, Miyamura was overthinking, thinking that Hori would accept Ishikawa's love confession, and after Hori dated Ishikawa, he would not be allowed into Hori's house again. Apparently, Hori rejected Ishikawa's declaration of love. Hori felt that the two of them were not suitable for each other. After knowing that, Miyamura felt a little relieved. He even told Hori that he had been worried that his close relationship with Hori would damage Hori's popularity at school. Hori looked annoyed and angry after hearing Miyamura's confession. Hori didn't expect that Miyamura would think so shallowly. Since Miyamura and Hori have become more honest about their feelings, the two have grown closer to each other. The scene switches to the moment where Hori's mother returns home after previously busy working out of town. After hearing about Miyamura from Shota, Hori's mother began to ask Hori many things about Miyamura, and wanted to meet Miyamura soon. Funnily enough, Hori described Miyamura to her mother as a villain in detective films. At that moment, Hori realized that she had not known Miyamura's nickname. So far, Hori only calls Miyamura by his surname. At school, Hori plans to find out Miyamura's full name. Hori even peeked in the boys' locker room to find out Miyamura's full name, but she still failed. Hori also couldn't find Miyamura's full name on the leaderboard. When Hori asked Ishikawa about Miyamura's full name, Ishikawa instead left because he was still heartbroken after being rejected by Hori. The next day, when Miyamura returned to visit Hori's house with snacks, he accidentally met Hori's mother. Hori's mother seemed pleased with Miyamura's arrival. That day, Miyamura asked Hori's attitude, which was a little strange lately. Moreover, Hori was caught peeking at the boys' locker room at school. Hori then said that she wanted to know what Miyamura's full name is. After hearing that, Miyamura immediately laughed. Then, Miyamura handed Hori a piece of paper with his full name on it. One day, the student council president at Hori's school, Sengoku, asks Hori to do his schoolwork. Sengoku reasoned that he was currently busy with tasks in the student council organization. Hori was forced to finish all the tasks until the afternoon. After that, the student council administrator named Ayasaki Kirimi came to take back the tasks that had been done by Hori. That afternoon, when Ayasaki was running in a hurry while carrying the student council files, she accidentally bumped into Miyamura, so all the files she was carrying fell scattered. Miyamura immediately helped Ayasaki to collect the files back. After Ayasaki left, it turned out that there was one file left behind. When Miyamura called Ayasaki to return the file, Ayasaki instead told Miyamura to throw away the file because she thought that the file was not too important. The next morning, Hori's classroom corridor was bustling with crowds of students. As it turned out, Sengoku accused Hori of missing a student council file that she was supposed to send yesterday. Hori looked surprised because she felt that she had sent all the files completely yesterday. Knowing this, Miyamura defended Hori and said that the person who lost the file was Ayasaki. Miyamura then explained what happened yesterday when Ayasaki told him to throw away the scattered student council files, so that the misunderstanding that occurred at that time could be resolved. There was actually a reason why Hori would bother with Sengoku's assignment. It turns out that Hori and Sengoku used to be close friends. Sengoku is Hori's childhood friend and Hori's classmate in middle school. In the past, Sengoku was a very timid and weak boy, but Sengoku's personality began to change since he entered high school. The scene switches to the moment where Ishikawa and Miyamura are planning gifts for Hori's birthday. When Hori's birthday arrives, Miyamura decides to gift Hori a cassette of Hori's favorite song. Shota, Hori's sister, gave Hori a gift in the form of a painting that Shota drew himself. Hori's birthday coincides with the arrival of spring when Hori and her friends begin to advance to 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, Hori and Miyamura meet again in the same class. Miyamura, who used to be very introverted and difficult to approach, now begins to feel the presence of friends around him. He becomes closer to Hori and the rest of the class. Miyamura even began to be friends with Ishikawa until he called him Ishikawa-kun, calls to familiar men. One day, Ayasaki comes to see Hori and teases her by saying that she wants to be Miyamura's girlfriend. Even though Hori and Miyamura were still not dating, Hori loudly said that she would not hand Miyamura over to anyone. It turns out that Hori is starting to like Miyamura. Since Shota entered elementary school, Miyamura and Hori have been spending more and more time together. Lately, they often watch horror films together even though Miyamura is very scared when watching horror films. Ishikawa begins to realize that Hori has feelings for Miyamura. But when Ishikawa told Miyamura, Miyamura kept denying it. As a result, the two of them fought until they ended up hitting each other. On another day, there is a female student named Kono Sakura who accidentally dropped student council files outside the window. At that time, Ishikawa happened to be there, so he helped Kono to collect the files. It turns out that Kono is also one of the student council administrators along with Hori. Kono and Ishikawa became more frequent and interacted with each other. Kono started showing her concern for Ishikawa. For example, when Ishikawa accidentally spilled water on his uniform, Kono immediately gave Ishikawa a tissue. The scene changes to the past, when Miyamura was still in middle school. Miyamura, whose demeanor was cold and reserved, didn't have many friends, and the only person willing to be friends with him was Shindo Koichi. Shindo became Miyamura's only close friend in middle school. That's why when Shindo found out that Miyamura was close to Hori, Shindo often teased Miyamura and Hori. At middle school, Miyamura was also bullied by a male student named Tanihara Makio. So Tanihara was surprised to find out that Miyamura had turned into a popular man and had a beautiful girlfriend. The plot twist is that Tanihara secretly cares and feels sorry for Miyamura. He often asked Shindo about Miyamura's condition. Back in the present, to the time when Hori was about to go to school. That morning, Hori had a fever. At first, Hori wanted to go to school, but Shota stopped her and asked her to rest at home. After school, Miyamura came to Hori's house to visit. There, Miyamura told Hori his feelings because he thought Hori was asleep, even though at that time, Hori was still awake and heard all of Miyamura's words. The next morning, Hori still couldn't go to school because she was still recovering. When Shota went to school with his friend, he accidentally saw Miyamura walking with another girl. Shota then told Hori about it. This made Hori overthink and wonder who the girl Miyamura was with yesterday. The next day, when Hori was able to go to school, Miyamura told Hori about his confession the other day. It turned out that Miyamura knew that Hori was still awake at that time, and he deliberately confessed his feelings so that Hori would know that he also liked Hori. Hori was very surprised after knowing that, but she finally felt relieved after knowing their feelings for each other. Then, Hori remembered what Shota had told her yesterday and asked Miyamura who was the girl Miyamura was with the other day. Miyamura immediately explained that the girl he was with yesterday was Chika-chan, Shindo Koichi's girlfriend. Hori became annoyed that Miyamura called Chika by a familiar nickname. Then Hori threw the book at Miyamura's face and left him, even though Miyamura called Chika-chan by that nickname because Miyamura didn't know what Chika's surname was. After school, Miyamura came to Hori's house to return the book that Hori had thrown away. At that time, Miyamura happened to meet Hori's father named Kyosuke Hori. Kyosuke has a friendly and humble character, so he can get to know Miyamura easily. Kyosuke often teases Miyamura by asking about his relationship with Hori. Hori gets annoyed and says that she and Miyamura are already dating. Since then, Miyamura has become closer to Hori's family. Miyamura is treated very well by Hori's mother and father. Kyosuke even asked Miyamura to stay at their house. Because last night Miyamura stayed at Hori's house and went to school with Hori. Many of their school students were spreading rumors about them. Miyamura was ridiculed for his gloomy appearance, and Hori for her low taste. Knowing this, Miyamura changed his appearance by cutting his hair and changing his school suit to a sweater. Miyamura becomes cooler and is liked by many female students at his school. However, all the female students who approached Miyamura were immediately chased away by Hori. One day, there was an incident that caused Hori and Miyamura to kiss. At that time, Shindo invited Hori and Miyamura to enjoy the candy prizes from the online contest he won. Surprisingly, the candies had unusual flavors such as earthy, pomegranate, and cheese flavors. When Hori took the earthy flavored candy, Miyamura quickly took the candy from Hori's mouth so the two of them accidentally kissed. The next day, Hori and Miyamura are suddenly approached by a student named Sawada Honoka. Honoka continued to follow Hori and Miyamura and kept asking when the two of them would break up. It turned out that Honoka had liked Hori for a long time. Another plot twist is that Honoka has been living next door to Miyamura. Due to Honoka and Miyamura fighting over each other for Hori, the two of them became more likely to see and interact with each other. On the other hand, the story between Ishikawa and Kono still continues. One day when Ishikawa was helping Yoshikawa take out the trash, he accidentally bumped into Kono and got her uniform dirty. Feeling guilty, Ishikawa lent his gym uniform to Kono. The next day, Kono returned Ishikawa's sports uniform and gave him a cake that Kono had made herself. Kono is getting bolder to show her concern for Ishikawa after Kono finds out that Ishikawa and Yoshikawa are not related. Kono often brought cakes for Ishikawa, and Yoshikawa noticed this. Yoshikawa began to notice the closeness between Kono and Ishikawa. Actually, Yoshikawa also likes Ishikawa, but she hides her feelings and keeps those feelings to herself. Yoshikawa was the type of person who used to hide her feelings and succumb for the sake of others. Surprisingly, Yoshikawa secretly began to learn how to make her own cakes. Yoshikawa then asked her friends to taste her homemade cake. Although the taste of the cakes were not delicious, Ishikawa appreciated Yoshikawa's cakes. One day, Yoshikawa gets news that there is a boy from another class named Akane Yanagi who likes her. But since Yoshikawa didn't know Yanagi, she decided to reject Yanagi. After Yoshikawa told Hori and Miyamura this, Hori asked Ishikawa to be Yoshikawa's fake boyfriend. Thus, Yoshikawa had a reason to be able to refuse Yanagi. Ishikawa is willing to be Yoshikawa's fake boyfriend because he wants to help Yoshikawa. After school, Yoshikawa and Ishikawa wait behind the school to meet Yanagi to carry out their plan to reject Yanagi. It turns out that Yanagi is a very handsome and humorous young man. Yanagi's eyesight is bad enough that he often mispronounces other people's names. It then made Yoshikawa think that Yanagi mistook Yoshikawa for someone else. But it turns out that Yanagi has liked Yoshikawa for a long time. A few days after that, Yoshikawa asked Ishikawa to be willing to continue the contract as a fake boyfriend. Ishikawa immediately agreed to that. The news of Yoshikawa dating Ishikawa spread and was known by Kono. Yoshikawa felt sorry for Kono because she had previously told Kono that she and Ishikawa were just friends. The next day, Yoshikawa missed school for several days for no apparent reason. Yoshikawa still seemed unable to meet Ishikawa and Kono. Moreover, she got a message from Ishikawa that Kono had confessed her feelings for Ishikawa. This made Yoshikawa even more overthinking. After Yoshikawa returned to school, Ishikawa told Yoshikawa that he had rejected Kono's confession. Hearing that, Yoshikawa felt both relieved and guilty. Because all this time, Kono was the one who kept chasing Ishikawa while she just kept hiding her feelings. The story turns back to the Hori and Miyamura couple. That day, Miyamura had to come to Hokkaido to visit his relatives. Due to forgetting to bring a charger, Miyamura's cell phone died and was difficult to contact. Hori became anxious and continued texting Miyamura. A few days after Miyamura returned to the apartment, Miyamura immediately recharged his cell phone and turned it on. Realizing that Hori sent a lot of messages, Miyamura immediately went to meet Hori. It turns out that Hori also came to Miyamura's apartment to meet Miyamura. They finally met in the elevator and immediately hugged each other. The next day, Hori tries to be cute with Miyamura, but it scares him instead. Hori became frustrated that her attempts to be cute failed. Miyamura then explains to Hori that he prefers Hori as she is. The story turns to the pair of Sengoku and Ayasaki. Sengoku, who always looks authoritative and disciplined, it turns out that Sengoku actually had a sensitive and timid personality. But all that slowly changed since he met Ayasaki. Ayasaki has always supported and protected Sengoku. Ayasaki admires Sengoku because Sengoku always tries to fight his fears. The two of them became closer since they spent a lot of time together in the library. In Horimiya, there is an extra character named Shu. He is a classmate of Hori and Miyamura. Shu always seemed cheerful and childish, but actually when he is at home, Shu is a grown-up older brother. Although Shu's attitude is a bit indifferent, but actually he really loves his younger brother. Shu's story has similarities with Hori and Miyamura, who have different sides when they are at home. Time passed, without realizing that winter had arrived. At this point, Hori and her friends began to live a comfortable and happy life. The relationship between Hori and Miyamura is becoming more and more inseparable. They even plan to get married when they grow up. Sengoku and Ayasaki still often fight over small things. Yoshikawa and Ishikawa often spend time playing games together. Shu became warmer to his little brother. And Yanagi begins to get close to Yoshikawa's older sister. While Kono is still single until now. When spring comes, Hori, Miyamura, and their friends finally graduate from their high school. Now, they will leave their high school and all their fond memories of high school. The moral that can be learned from this anime is, never hesitate to express your feelings to the people you love before you regret it. Enjoy good times with your friends, so you can keep sweet memories with them. Miyamura Izumi once said, "You can have the bad days so you can love the good days even more."